Welcome to the Money Insights Podcast, where high-income earners come to learn wealth-building strategies that will take them from high income to high net worth. With your hosts, financial and wealth-building experts, Christian Allen and Rod Zabriskie.
Welcome into today's episode of the Money Insights Podcast. I'm your host, Christian Allen. With me, as always, Rod the Pod Zabriskie. Rod, what's up?
Hey, I am doing great. How are you?
I'm really good, and I'm excited today. I know I say that all the time, but I'm especially excited today because for today's episode, we're going to be playing a killer interview that we did with AI expert Jill Schiefelbein. And I went into this interview really excited because I genuinely love AI.
Yes, you do.
But Rod, it was much better than what I thought it would be. Like, there was just huge value. I left that interview thinking I didn't realize I could do these 10 things, and now I need to go meet with Jill and figure out how to execute these things because I genuinely want to be on the cutting edge. So if you're that person like me who wants to be on the cutting edge of AI, this is an interview you don't want to miss.
And I think the cool thing is that she covered topics that, like you said, new ideas, new concepts, and practical applications that all of us can use.
Yeah, it's a great point. So I use Jarvis for business. Jarvis is my ChatGPT, as a reminder. I use it for business, for pleasure, for everything in between. And can I just tell you, it's such an incredible resource. And yet, one of the things I realized, and maybe I realized it before that, but like it really was highlighted to me that I'm just scratching the surface on what we can do with AI. And you made a great point. I use it a lot for work, for business, for content creation, for those kinds of things. But the reality is, not only can it be really valuable and just effective in the rest of our lives, it's just going to be. So we can kind of sit on the fence and watch it come around and become part of our lives, or we can become early adopters. And the way I look at it is, I want to control AI. I don't want AI to control me. And so for that reason, I'm going to be on the front end of it. And again, like, if you're like me at all, if you're intrigued by AI, you just definitely don't want to miss this interview with Jill Schiefelbein. Any final words, Rod, before we call?
No, I think you said it.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and make sure you stay to the whole thing.
Super excited to have you on today's live webinar, and we're even more excited to have our guest for today. So before we bring in Jill, I want to just introduce her. I want to start by kind of telling you why I was intrigued by this. So we obviously get lots of opportunities to bring in cool people that will bring in tremendous value, but I personally have a fascination with AI. I think I say personally, but most everybody has a pretty big fascination with AI. But the thing that I really like about what Jill's doing is that she's bringing together a topic that's typically like being pitted against each other. In other words, it's like personal relationships and connection versus AI, right? Like, is AI going to take away all those things? But she's doing something really unique and special, and that is teaching people how to bring those things together to actually enhance the human experience. So from my perspective, this was one that I just felt like I had to have Jill on. We're really excited to have Jill Schiefelbein. Dr. Jill Schiefelbein. And before we introduce her, Rod, why don't you just before we turn the time over to you, Jill, Rod, why don't you just give Jill's background to the audience real quick?
Yeah, and I mean, Jill's uniquely qualified to address our topic for today because she has a knack at making the theoretical tangible. And she comes from an education background. She taught business communication at Arizona State for a little over a decade. And she calls herself a recovering academic because now she, as an entrepreneur, a consultant, she's out finding real life solutions for real life needs in both the physical space and in the digital space. And so with that, I'll turn the time back and we'll just go.
All right, Jill, it's all you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen. And hello, everyone who is on the line right now. And both Christian and Rod, thank you so much for setting that up so well. For me, I am a firm believer, like a staunch believer, that technology, when used well, enables us to be more human. And I have thought this from when I first started working with technology back in the very early 2000s. I fell in love with, initial HTML coding like a good little nerd, and then found myself building up online education at higher ed institutions. And I'm from a tiny town in Kansas where, when you're growing up in the 80s and, early 90s, you didn't have access to crap. And so for me, when I found technology and especially, the internet and distributed learning could democratize access to information and experiences for people, regardless of their geographic area, regardless of their life constraints. Are they a caretaker? Are they a single parent? Do they have to work non-conventional hours, but still wanted to get an education? And my passion became, well, how can we provide engaging, meaningful experiences, no matter what the life situation was, through technology? And so fast forward now 22 years from when I built my first online course, this is AI and generative AI and synthetic media is really an extension of all that, because at the core of it all, what I studied, in undergrad and grad school was communication and international business. And at the core of it all, from a neuroscientific and psychological perspective, humans are humans. Technology is merely a tool that manifests different messages, that delivers different messages. So at the core, at the end of it all, we are still human, but we need to understand how we are interacting better with technology. And so that's the lens I bring to that. I get excited about AI because I believe in its potential. And I know that a lot of people don't also share that excitement right off the bat. Maybe it's a little more trepidation or fear, or, as someone said in there, thinks about AI to relationships, like, how does that work? Right? We don't necessarily see that as an obvious thing. So that's the lens that I am bringing to the presentation. Really what I want to do with this is walk you through kind of a pre-done presentation. And this presentation is kind of an iteration that I've given in many different industries and many different circumstances. And before I actually pull up the slides here, or rather while I'm pulling up some slides just to contextualize this, I would love to know, Christian, like from your perspective, in this industry, with those on the line, what are some of the pressing concerns in terms of work overload, client communication, client recruitment, marketing? What's kind of going on in the communication space?
Goodness, that's a big question, Jill. I feel like I need to ask you to narrow it down a little bit more for my brain.
Yeah, nope, not a problem. And pardon the British spelling initially on here now. I just got back. I'm in the middle of a world tour right now with 6 different countries and presenting. So we are the only ones who use Z in humanize, as it were. But
that is interesting.
I know, so I had to change all my stuff. But when we are looking at kind of what you're doing, when you're looking at wealth management, when you're looking at financial planning, when you're looking at this space, what are kind of the points of friction or frustration that you experience when running your day-to-day business and communicating with clients?
Gosh, it's still really big, but I think our business has like always been, I say always, we've tried to be as proactively engaged in automation and technology as we can. In fact, one of our kind of major breakthrough moments happened many years ago when we were the only ones doing, or we were one of very few people doing business across state lines on Zoom and things like that. But I feel like specifically in the wealth management space, there's probably like a fear that AI is going to give more of the advantages to the big companies, right? I don't know if you remember hearing about like some of this kind of quote unquote scandals that exist in the Wall Street world, where they're using sophisticated algorithms to like beat people to market and things like that. So those are just a few things that come to my mind. But specifically then for the business owners, and maybe I should back up here because we're gonna be talking about this in kind of 2 lanes. One of them is the business element, like we're talking about here, but then there's also the wealth building element, and they kind of can cohesively work together, but that's maybe a little bit on both sides.
No, I love that. Thank you so much. And Joshua, thank you for also what you put in there, like, having the timely and thorough research and doing your due diligence, and how can we maybe expedite some of that? And if you can't expedite something, maybe even how do you communicate expectations around that so that your clients are very, anticipatory and thankful and trusting, and you're building that relationship based on the work that you're doing. Because a lot of the time we as humans don't want to be like, well, we're doing this and this and this, and before I give you a quote, these 10 things are happening, and itemizing them out. At the same time, you do need to set expectations and calibrations for the work that is being put in on it and how it differentiates you from a purely quant model, for example, or something along those lines. I mean, I think back to all of my days watching Billions when Taylor got in there and, was revving up all our computers and our algorithms. And some of you will probably get that reference. And if not, don't worry about it. I promise it was good. So we will go into Kind of. Oh, Christian, you came back on.
I'm with you, Jill. I'm with you. Billions is a good show, so I'm totally with you. I just wanted to give you that reinforcement.
I love it. Thank you. So when we look at kind of relationships, I want to put on my, communication professor hat here for just a second, because when we are working so hard in our business and even on our business, sometimes we forget to rewind and realize at the end of the day, everyone we're dealing with is another human. And when we do studies, when we look at, I'm talking hundreds of studies, scientific studies, massive corporate surveys, validated instruments over tons of different fields, when it comes to three key factors that when we can augment our communicative touch points, when we can augment our communication with any one of these three, you're going to see more results fast. You're going to get more decisions made more quickly. You're going to get more people taking the next step. You're going to get more people asking questions or engaging in conversation, brand loyalty, retention, et cetera. All of those things come into play. And the first one is personalization. Right? We have to personalize our communication. And by that, I mean, it needs to be unique to the individual. These things, mind you, of course, if you personalize something to every single one of, let's just for ease of math here, 100 different clients, you have 100 different clients, insert first name does not count as personalization anymore, everybody. That's kind of status quo. That is, the cost of entry of doing business. People expect to be communicated with and addressed by name. That is nothing new anymore. But when you can personalize things truly to an individual, whether it is maybe a life situation or a specific event, a quality or characteristic, something about them, and we'll get more into this from a data standpoint shortly, you can move the needle faster. The second one is unique to an audience or a subgroup, so customization. So if you have this book of 100 clients, let's say you have 10 of those, 10% of those clients are single people. Okay, that's one customized audience. Another 25% are married with no kids. Okay, great. That's a customized audience. You have another 30% that are married with children, another customized audience. So again, instead of sending out one generic newsletter to your entire list every month, updating them on what's going on with XYZ, financial, wealth, whatever corporation, you're actually creating 5, 6, 7, whatever many customized groups of different content. And think, well, we don't do this because there's not enough time. Well, with generative AI, there's zero excuse not to do this when it literally takes, after a little upstart, 2 clicks of a button to make this happen. So we're going to go into that. And then the third is agency or choice. And what this is that you allow people agency or choice in how they consume your content. One of the fascinating things about human psychology and how our brains work is, let's say there's this big decision you want them to get to, which is, hey, we're going to let you manage our finances. We're going to let you manage our wealth. That's where we want to get to. Well, you know that typically it's not this boom, boom, A to B path. There's about 25 letters in between A and Z, right? You're trying to get there, and it does take time. I want you to think of every single one of those letters in between A and Z, if Z is the end goal, as an opportunity to get someone to buy in psychologically. So every time you get someone to say a small yes to something, it lowers that barrier to that big yes at the end that you want them to get to. And this is a big psychological principle. Robert Cialdini, who's one of the most prominent researchers in psychology and persuasion, talks about this a lot too. And what this means is, how can I get you to do a bunch of small little yeses that by the time I make this big ask, there's not this psychological barrier, or there's not this big dissonance between what we've started our relationship as and what you're asking me to do. And so as it comes to communication, I want you to think of emails that you have seen. If you see an email that comes with, let's say, a screenshot and a play button that has a video in the email, even if you don't click play on that video, that it even shows a video in the first place communicates something. There is communication that's taking place by showing that you put it in a different form. With technology, there is zero reason to not have it video, audio, and text. And then when a consumer or a potential client is going to click on any one of those and make a choice to consume content in the medium of their choice, that is one of those small steps towards that big thing, lowering that psychological variable. So when you're looking at communication, you want to think throughout your customer's experience, how can you make things more personalized, more customized, or provide more choice, or ideally all three? So when we look at doing this with AI outputs are only as good as human inputs. I have 5 pragmatics or 5 rules that I have when governing and talking about generative AI, and this is number 1. So many people have used different AI tools and say, well, I'm not getting the results I want. Most likely, it's not the tool's fault. Now, sometimes it is, but most likely it's not. Because I have people going in to ChatGPT, and I'm just curious, people on the line, if you have any experience with what you use ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini for, I'd love for you to type it in the chat and share not only with me, but with everyone else. Let's get some crowdsourced involvement here. But I have people going to ChatGPT, like my father, God love him, when he learned about ChatGPT, and he was like, well, what the hell is this? I'm playing around with it. Let's see what this is. And so he asked it to do some like crazy formulation. He's a chemical engineer on some like rare chemical bond that exists. And I said, all right, Dad, you're challenging the machine. That's fine. And the information comes back. And he's like, well, that's not all there is to it. There's a lot of other factors. I said, but is it factually incorrect, right? Like, is it actually incorrect, or does it lack context? He goes, it lacks context. And I said, and that's where the expertise comes in. But all of you are experts in your own space, that if we're using our brain every day to put the basic information out, that we don't need to be time using our brain power to do that. We need to be using our expertise to provide the human context that a machine can't provide. So we want to shortcut these things. So I'm just going to walk you very, very briefly through what I call an anatomy of a prompt, just to give you some ideas of how we should be prompting things. Because most of the time when I talk to business owners and they say, well, I've tried to use ChatGPT, but it doesn't get the results I want, I ask it what they use for the prompt. And then I'll ask, if you gave these same instructions to an entry-level employee that just started in your business, what results would you expect? And they're like, well, not much. And I'm like, and how are you expecting this machine to produce much results with that? So when we look at the different ways to prompt, I just want to give you these 8 different pieces that you need to be cognizant of if you really want to maximize the potential. And the first one is a little role play with ChatGPT. Like, who is it acting as? So you need to tell ChatGPT, you are a high volume wealth advisor, you're a high net worth financial planner, or whatever it is. Tell the machine who it is, then tell it what you are trying to get out of it, right? That means a client proposal prospectus, blah, 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 whatever it may be. That is between 200 and 500 words, that has the goal of getting someone to set up a second meeting with me. The audience is a single, woman in her 40s that's financially solvent and wants to start planning more for the future. I want this in the brand or tone of voice. And this is where you simply upload your brand document in communicative style document. If you don't have one of those, that's a whole other webinar and a whole other conversation to have. Then if you have an example, it can mirror a format of a document, like something that you'd see on this website or this page. And if there's any details like your brand, your slogan, your 5 key core values that you want written in it, do it. You put all of this into a prompt, you're going to get 80% of the way there with what you need. And then you can use your humanness to get the other 20%. There's no need to be continually reinventing the wheel. And once you have this, once you have whatever core piece you're getting, now you ask ChatGPT to rephrase it and customize it for that single person audience, a single male audience, a married, no children audience, et cetera, et cetera. So again, AI outputs are only as good as human inputs. Garbage in will equal garbage out. Christian or Rod, you want to pop in with any commentary before I move on to my next point?
I'll just say really quick that I use ChatGPT for everything, and I can vouch for this experience. Like, I have tried to get as many of my core business memories into ChatGPT as possible, and then when I need to go and write an email, write a script, put out social media posts, any of these kind of core things that we're putting out content, especially, it's just been a lifesaver and way more efficient. And that's not even getting into all the stuff that we can do from an automation perspective.
Yeah.
Can I add really quickly?
Please.
Christian has a relationship with his ChatGPT. He's
Jarvis.
named it. When he's talking about it, he'll say stuff like, "Oh, I was having a conversation with Jarvis," or "We've been going back and forth about this or that." So it's a real thing for him.
That's awesome. And I love that Blake put in the chat too that he uses ChatGPT to brainstorm ideas or topics or things that you're interested in. And it eradicates a blank page, right? Again, so I am all about, let's use technology to speed up our time on route, mundane, process-based tasks so we can spend that time being more human. And whether that time is being human in our business or with our families or with our friends or by ourselves, it doesn't matter. But let's free up that time and space because our brain doesn't need to be doing that. a side note on ChatGPT for those who haven't explored with it yet. I'm doing this from memory now, but if you go into your ChatGPT on the upper left-hand side, there's a button that says Explore. And if you click on Explore, you can then click on Create in the upper right-hand corner and create your own agent. And Christian, I'm sure you are, using this right now. But for me, I have my, I call her Dr. Jill bot, and I have uploaded all of my books, all of the articles, transcripts of webinars and podcasts and everything. So like when I get the recording of this, it will upload to that same agent and be able to train. And then I can use my Dr. Jill bot as a content creator, as an email writer, as a sparring partner. One of my favorite uses is like, okay, you've been trained on my writing, push back on me and tell me where I'm being an idiot right now, and I phrase it better than that because ChatGPT doesn't like the word idiot, but we go back and forth on things. So again, you can make this happy. And so one of the things, if you are having a hard time in, client negotiations, or maybe you're finding a point of attrition in your business where you're getting people to, again, everyone's business is different. 3 out of 4 meetings you need for them to sign all their accounts over to you. But at that 3rd meeting, you're dropping off. Well, ask people, get permission if it's required in your state, record, see what's going on, throw that data in, redact any names and sensitive information first, but then put it in there and have the machine analyze it and give you suggestions about what you can do to improve those conversations and those closing conversations. So many ways to use it, but that is just a start. The
Hey,
next
Jill,
big thing, yeah.
really question. From a tools standpoint, what tools are you liking the best for? Is ChatGPT still like the primary standard, or is there anything that you like different or that's doing something significantly different that you may not be able to get out of ChatGPT?
Nothing significantly different. Based on what ecosystem you have, an ecosystem from a tech standpoint. Do you use Google Workspace? Are you using Microsoft products, etc.? Copilot started out hot and heavy, started doing really well, and is really kind of dwindled down a little bit in terms of effectiveness. So if any of you are feeling that frustration, you're not alone. There's lots of chatter about that. Gemini, on the other hand, is going up and up in effectiveness. So it really depends what systems you're using and unique use cases for those things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, there's no sexy new tool that I'm like, yes, you must do that. But I will say within ChatGPT, train your own agent. Period. End of story. Train your own agents. Not doing so is crazy at this point in time. And that's how you start to leverage your time better and really get to the scale of what larger companies were able to do prior to smaller companies like all of us. Second point here is if you want to advance, you have to get your data in order. And I love data. Data is sexy as my Wi-Fi password. I love it. I teach a business analytics course at a doctoral program. This is my world. I live in it. I love it. And it sucks because if your data is not in order in your organization, so many people don't press play on anything because they're like, oh, well, the data's not there yet. I don't care if it's not there yet. I need you to start somewhere, and you can retrofit the other data later, but you need to start somewhere. So let me show you a framework for what I mean by this. I want to get you a path to data fluidity, because when you have data fluidity, when your systems are talking to each other and when your data is in not necessarily a centralized place, because there's compliance laws with that, and I understand that, but when your data is in order and your systems are capable of extracting that data through APIs, application programming interfaces, and talking to each other, you have a whole different level of ability to leverage generative AI for automation. What I mean by that is if you want to personalize communication, how are you going to get that information that is unique to each customer if you don't have your systems talking to each other in a way to connect all of those dots? So first, what you need to do as kind of your data audit is identify existing data locations. This is, again, not the sexy work whatsoever, but it is an important step. What you will probably find in doing this is you're actually paying for more systems than you actually need. So benefit, you'll probably save some money in the long run. Next, you have to assess the accuracy of that data and normalize it. Normalize it means cleaning the data, means, a sexy Excel word, concatenation. If you have your first name in one column and your last name in a second in one data source, but it's together in a single column in another data source, you have to normalize it to make sure it is all the same across all of your different systems. So again, you can leverage these tools to create accurate and personalized experience. Then you need to determine what's missing or needed. And I'm going to take you through another step-by-step process about, from a communicative perspective, what you need to think about in terms of how you want to start thinking of what message you want to send, how you want to personalize it, and then looking at, okay, if I want to personalize this and make this all automated, here are the different pieces of data I need. Here are the different columns that I need. For a lot of people, it is, when it's legal for you to do so by state or with client permission, recording calls and meetings that you have with people, getting transcripts of that, getting summaries of that, and then putting those summaries and takeaways into a column within your CRM, your customer relationship management software. So again, you have accurate depictions of what is being talked about that are very unique to each client. The next thing for fluidity is you need to connect your systems and create process. I said API, application programming interface. In layperson's terms, I like to think of it as I have a computer over here and I have a computer over here, or a system here and a system here. I'm getting them to shake hands. That handshake is that API where data can go from one to the other. So you want to make sure that that is possible. And if it's not possible, what is going to be the fastest way for you to export data from one and import it into another area, and being able to identify that. And then finally, you have to monitor and maintain the culture. Within your business, your teams need to understand why data fluidity is so important and what it helps you achieve in terms of customer satisfaction, customer experience, retention, etc. You have to communicate the why on this, because it's very, very easy to get slack after you have a meeting and then, oh shoot, you're late for a lunch appointment and you don't enter in that customer's data right then and there. And then you never go back to it when you don't have a clear why. So you have to put that in as part of the culture. Doing that is going to make you more successful. My third tenet here, or pragmatic, as I call it from a nerd word, is focusing on using AI to humanize, with a Z here, automation. So really for me, as I said at the very beginning, it's all about how we can make this more human. So when that newsletter goes out, it's not generic to everyone. It actually makes sense to all people. Or maybe you still want to send the same newsletter, but you're going to customize 2 sentences at the beginning of each and every newsletter direct to each client. So they say, okay, here's a full newsletter, but I really think the article on X is going to be most interesting to you. Make sure to give it a read. I will tell you, you send me something like that is personalized about what one thing I can look at that I'm going to find value and benefit in, I am so much more likely to go scroll down and read that than I would be otherwise. Otherwise, I'm like, just delete, or leave it in the inbox on read and never really get back to it until I'm on an airplane and don't want to watch TV anymore. I'm cleaning out my inbox, right? We all have these different systems that we do, but you want to make sure it's more personalized. And to do this, this is, again, not the sexy work, but it's what needs to be done if you want to up your game here, is you have to examine your CX, and this is your customer experience. So when it comes to your relationships, the first stage of this is discovery. This is how people find you. Is it marketing? Is it social? Is it where you're on the media? Is it word of mouth? Is it a referral? Is it a networking event? Whatever it is, the first phase of your CX is discovery. And how are you getting people to set up that first meeting with you, right? How are you getting that first interaction? Discovery is typically one-way conversation. I even count meeting at a networking event before an actual meeting is set up, kind of that one way. You may just be collecting information at this point in time, but you can make this more automated and more rich. You can create a custom avatar of yourself in an environment. Let's say you're at a networking event and you create, in exactly what you look like today, with 2 minutes of footage here, an avatar that represents you with the event in the background. The next day or the next 2 days when you're requesting appointments, you have a script that inserts their name, their company name, the event that you met them at, one interesting thing you talked about. And in seconds, you can have hundreds of videos in your likeness generated to send out to people that says, hey, Christian, hope you remember me. I met you here at this event. Well, my real human did. I'm her digital clone from last night. Would love to set up a time with you to do X, Y, Z. Those events are crazy. You meet a lot of people. You want to be remembered. You want to make it personal. That's how you do it. So you think of every touch point you have in the discovery phase. I'm not sure if anyone here on this line does like a seminar or a workshop model where you advertise, get people into seminars and build from there. But there's a whole CX that you can do, whole customer experience in this discovery, and even a whole like step-by-step pipeline that's based solely around adding your digital likeness to a seminar series. So if that's something you ever want to talk about, please, I'll give you info at the end and a link to actually schedule an appointment with me, everybody, so you can let me know. The next tier is engagement. This is when it becomes a two-way communication. This is when it's a two-way street. It's that first meeting. And I like to give the example of Calendly or Schedule Once or even an Outlook invite here, right? So when you set up a meeting, you send those out and there's automated reminders. I don't know anyone who, except for the very first time automation was a thing, goes and is like, oh, look at this automated Calendly reminder. I feel so loved and cared for and confident in this person's ability to have the next steps. Like, no, that is, again, the price of admission right now. That's status quo. But with 60 seconds, you can put your brand, put that confidence in there. If you want people to feel safe and secure before meeting with you the first time, make sure you have that messaging in that automation. That makes it more human. You want to step it up a notch with a personal video? Now you know how to do that too. But this is what I'm talking about, examining your CX and all the different touch points you have. And I'm going to tie it together in a framework with human business tool in a little bit. Execution is once you've signed that contract and you're delivering on that promise. In your industry, everybody, that execution phase is a very, very, very long time. Maybe you have annual contracts that need to be signed depending on the state that you live in and what you're managing. And in others, not so much. I know that's very state by state dependent in some ways. But with the execution, it's when you're delivering on that promise, right? So if you have maybe 1 year, you have to think then your continuation phase, which is the next phase, is okay, continue. Let's go back to that engagement and start over again. But all of these things, these 4 areas of your customer experience, all have communicative touch points. And now when you look at these in total, think where in your customer experience do you personally experience friction, frustration, or attrition? Here's what I mean by that. Friction means there's just too much damn work to make this touch point happen, right? Whatever it may be. How can we shorten that down? Frustration, don't need to define that. We all know it. My frustration, one of the first things I automated and leveraged with AI for was invoice collection. I hate chasing after people for money, like hate. The first thing I offsourced it to my assistant when I first brought an assistant on many years ago. And then now we've also automated it even more. Attrition is drop off. What are your baseline metrics? Do you know how many people you have initial calls with lead to secondary calls, lead to contract signing? What are your ratios? What are your percentages in all of those areas? Which one has the biggest delta, or which one could give you the most benefit if that ratio were, changed, if that percentage of loss was reduced, and then target interventions there. Those are what you should look at first in thinking of AI solutions, which is if I have friction, I have frustration, or if I have attrition, clearly something is not working well for me. So those are great places to start thinking about automations, technology, and of course, humanizing those. I'm going to give you a goal framework here in a second, but I'll pause to check the chat and let Christian and Rod jump in with anything that you guys might have.
I'm just already thinking of like, oh, I gotta get this call set up. Because I'll be honest, Jill, before we started, like I knew the framework of what you were doing, but like actually understanding some just very simple applications like starts to get your mind thinking, right? And so for me, I'm like, well, now I have to meet with Jill to figure out how to up my game. Like I have to. So that's what's going through my head.
No, and I like, there are so many webinars out there and so many things you can read that are all focused on the tools. The reality is you slap a tool on top of your existing tech stack, you may get this much, but if you do it strategically in this process, you're going to get this much. And again, it's not the sexy work, but it is damn sexy outcomes once you actually put in that work and get that ball rolling. I like Joshua in there, like marketing. I hate marketing. I hear you, sir. I hear you. It is not fun at all. But I will tell you something like this that I'm doing right now, this webinar, I will get the recording, I will get the transcript, it'll be trained into my agent. It will then be turned into multiple pieces of content. I will then make sure my GPT agent, my Dr. Jillbot, customizes it for different financial. I will go into my CRM. Anyone who's tagged financial industry is going to get, you can see how all of this happens in a very automated way. So there's very little human touch I have to do on that to leverage any experience. So it's really thinking too, Joshua, about any conversation that you're having. And if you're not having them with people you feel comfortable recording, have them with your peers that are on this line, have them with Christian, have them with Rod. I'm just throwing you guys, I'm volunteering you out there. But, have these conversations, record them, extract those transcripts, get that knowledge and find ways to use it in marketing. It's just so much more effective and efficient. So when we look at what then my fourth really kind of pragmatic is about AI and generative AI, it's really building guardrails around what is effective and not around fear. This does not mean you shouldn't worry about compliance or what if something goes bad or security. It doesn't mean that at all. But I want you to approach it from what is most effective for me as a business owner, what is effective for my customer or my potential customer, my client, long-term, short-term, whatever it is, what is most effective for the human first, and then address the what ifs. Because if you go into the conversations about integrating tools from a what if standpoint, from a fear-based standpoint, the solutions that you come up with are going to be more narrow and they are going to be more limited. I actually just had a cybersecurity expert on my podcast yesterday. Well, it'll come out next month, but we recorded yesterday. And in talking to him, he's like, yeah, we're always the guys that come into the room and no one wants to sit next to you at dinner, right? Oh, you're in cybersecurity. It's like, we don't want to talk to you. But he's like, in reality, like, I want to enable you to do the best that you can for your customer without putting anyone at risk. That's it. So if you can't tell me what's best for you and your customer first, how can I best help protect your risk? And I'm like, yes, that's the attitude I want to hear. So this is really what I want to get to. And to do that, I want you to follow this goal framework, which is putting humans first. So whenever you think I need to do something or what tool does XYZ, if you cannot first tell me about the human feeling or emotion that is attached to the experience you're trying to create with this communicative touch point, with this process. Now, internal business process, you may be, I want to get rid of frustration. That is my feeling or emotion. That's perfectly fine. But if you think about this from your external client standpoint now, so we're talking about marketing, we're talking about that customer experience, those 4 stages I mapped out. First, think, what is that feeling or emotion you want someone to experience? Just like no one has a warm fuzzies with that Calendly invite. If you want people showing up to a first appointment with you feeling safe or feeling confident or feeling curious, you need to make sure that your communication and the automations you have in place reflect that first. Then what is your desired goal or outcome from it from a business perspective? Great. I want people to feel confident and safe in meeting with me. And I want that first meeting for them to come at a different place because, if someone feels safe already in a conversation, your conversation starts at a 2 out of 10 instead of a 1 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10, whatever it may be. Then and only then, once you've identified those 2 things, you can select or look at the tools or processes. But so many of us, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not immune to it. We have shiny object syndrome, and there's a new tool every day. Like, I think it's Brennan. I hope I pronounced that correctly in there. You said, yeah, there's something every day that comes out, and there's unlimited possibilities. There absolutely are. And if you focus on chasing those tools all the time, you're never going to reach the capacity and potential that you have to truly leverage them. So the human feeling or emotion, the goal or the outcome for the business, and then the tool or process. Because we know, especially in highly personalized, highly relationship-focused industries, especially in anything that deals with money, right? Like, I consider myself a decently intelligent person. I am terrified every time I call with my financial planner. And it's not because he's not fantastic. I absolutely love him. I've had him for 15 years now. But it's not a topic that is one that's super, super comfortable for me because that's not my happy place where I live. So whatever you can do to put me at ease, to come into that conversation at a different place so you can do your job more effectively, that type of tool, that type of communication is going to be beneficial. Any notes you guys want to jump in with before I go to this next slide?
I'll just say that this is a topic that we talk about all the time and have from the beginning for the exact reason you say, like the way that we interact with people has to be comfortable for them. And I think that's true no matter what, right? Like we do what we do on the financial space, but regardless of what someone's business is, even whether it's retail or whatever, I think that has to be something you focus on. And so then as you're adding these tools, continuing to keep that focus and make sure that the people are continuing, you continue with that focus of making people comfortable as they're interfacing with you or your bot or however that is.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like with tech and tools and stuff, like people are smart developing them, right? And I'm not knocking any tools, but when you are a tool developer and when you are a tool company, you're typically feature first. I am feeling first. I want feeling first to feature second. And if you really want to capitalize on relationships, you have to reframe yourself for that. Yes, features are important, but that feature is only going to be important if it helps you achieve a feeling that's going to lead to longer, more sustained, more beneficial relationships. So feelings over features, if you want a little sound bite there. I know it's touchy-feely, but it's true. Like, that's how you're going to get those long-term things.
I like it.
So let's talk about the personalization angle. And I just have a couple more slides here to show you, just to kind of demonstrate some different points. But when it comes to leveraging your data, here is kind of a four-step, just step process you can think of, an individual communication, right? An individual touch point. You may have 50 in your customer experience, but just thinking about one, you really think about, what do you want to communicate? And that goes back to the feeling, right? Like, what are you trying to communicate? I'm trying to communicate confidence and comfort, or, whatever it may be. Once you have that in head, then it's, who is your audience, right? Now, is this going to existing clients, potential clients, like warm leads, cold leads, whatever it may be? So identify them. And of course, as you've learned, customize and categorize as much as is possible. That'll be more possible for existing clients, obviously, than potential clients or cold leads. After that, you then need to look at, with the message that you want to send to the audience you want to reach, where will the data come from that you need to communicate that? So if you're thinking like, I want you to think like a script with fill in the blanks, like, hi, insert first name. It was nice meeting you at insert name of event. One of the topics that often comes up with people in the insert industry is insert topic. Whatever it is, whatever those inserts are, you need to know where that data is going to come from, so you can figure out what applications need to merge to make that happen in an automated way. And then last, you need to think about how you'll deliver that message. So those are just an easy way, an oversimplified way, honestly, but a very simplified way of looking at, what are you going to communicate? Who is that audience? Where do you get the data to customize or personalize that communication? And how is it delivered? So that is kind of like 101 steps in now leveraging this data that you have. Then it gets a little more complicated. So on, I think it's 2 slides from now, which is my last one, there's going to be a QR code. On this QR code, if you scan it, you will be taken to a form. This form asks you a handful of questions, nothing too personal, don't worry. And if you fill that out, within minutes, you will get to your inbox a video from My Digital Likeness that is personalized based on the multiple choice and fill in the blank things that you did in that form. On that video is going to be a link. And in that link, you can schedule a free, I'm not a salesy person. I really am not, that's not my thing. I genuinely care to help, because I believe if I help, you're going to sell me to someone else anyway, right? So with that, free 20-minute jump on with me, talk about anything you want from this webinar. And that's all from scanning a simple QR code and putting in some basic information. So you'll kind of see this data personalization at scale at play. But I want to show you how it works. So for people who are, in smaller offices or need to be able to communicate to teams better as a leader, as a manager, as owner, here is really how it works behind the scenes. Let's say you've just, bought, I don't know, you've rented a villa. You're going to go to the Dominican Republic, and you just rented a villa with Villas of Distinction. They're my favorite villa company. They're lovely people. And great, they made a purchase. What happens when that happens? You've swiped your credit card, you've paid online, boom. 2 things happen pretty much automatically with any type of transactional commerce system. A receipt is generated and a customer data profile is created. That also often results in a CRM entry if you have a CRM, a customer relationship management software in place. So these things, in theory, are probably already automated in your business. For you, it may be, hey, the purchase made, someone signed up for a seminar. So the receipt is a confirmation email. The data profile is created. It probably goes into a sales funnel or a CRM of some sort, right? So same type of thing. But what's the fun in sending a generic confirmation message like, thank you for booking with us, or we'll see you at the seminar? Now we know there's no feeling with that. So we want to make it even better. So we think, dang, if I can, let's go with this villa example here. If I can get the digital likeness of the concierge that is going to be serving them day and night at this villa, so when they arrive and they see this person, there is no dissonance, right? You remember back in COVID days where you'd meet with people on Zoom and then you'd meet with them in person, and it took your brain a hot second to be like, you are way taller than I thought you would be, or you're way shorter than I thought you would be, or that's called dissonance in our brain. And if we can reduce that, again, we get to comfort and safe faster. So then we decide, okay, we're going to make this more personal. So I take all this information and put that customer data into a script. the name, if you have family, all your activities, excursions, whatever it may be. Then that script is delivered to an application, in this case, Render, where we generate these videos. Then from that, the application generates that video of your digital likeness. Once that's done, then that video link and the data pass back to your CRM, and then your CRM combines that receipt data with the customized video and personalization and sends it on to your client. This is stuff that is 100% automated once it is set up, and it looks way more complicated than it actually is. But this is when I'm talking about going back to that data fluidity slide and knowing where your data is at, what systems it at, is it normalized, do you have it in order? This is what it allows you to achieve when you do, but you have to do that work first to get there. And you got to do it because my last point is the positive uses have to outweigh the nefarious ones. This stuff exists. It's going to exist. Your competitors are going to use it. Some of them will use it in unethical ways. None of you will that are on this line, but your competitors might. So we have to keep innovating and using this for positive uses, for positive customer experiences, for positive service interactions, so that we can be continually innovating and kind of upping the game with what we're doing, allowing you to compete with those bigger competitors. And so for that, this is the end of the formal presentation. I know we'll do some Q&A and banter back and forth here, but should you want to receive that personalized video, that link to schedule a 20-minute call to talk about whatever you want based on this conversation today, all you have to do is scan that QR code right there, and the rest will be self-evident. So thank you guys for listening, and I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say, Christian and Rod.
Okay, so just as a starting point, let everybody anyone that has questions, please put them in the chat and we'll make sure that we get them directly from Jill's mouth. That said, I hear this kind of stuff and I can't think, it's hard for me to believe anybody that's like, especially anybody that's in business or really just wanting to put your best foot forward and connect with people in today's world, like why you wouldn't want to at least utilize some of these very specific applications to improve that. And I don't know. Like I said, just the first 2 or 3 examples, I was like, oh, I've got to do that. I've got to do that. I've got to do that. And I get really excited about this. So my experiences with our clients, with our audiences, that everybody is excited about AI and what it can do. Rod, what was your thoughts on it?
I think the big moment maybe for me was the example you gave of the networking. And because again, my big thing was, well, how do we connect AI with the relationships? And I'll also connect that to my later comment about making people feel comfortable, is it's creating an experience. And the thing I think I liked the most on that is that you're intentional about, even on the AI video, saying, like, acknowledging this is the virtual version of me, right? So people don't think you're trying to fool them or things like that. So again, that goes back to the whole comfort thing. But just being creative in the way that we connect that AI generative type of technology, but use it to really better our relationships, like the real relationships that matter, and hopefully that will matter in the future as we meet new people and are trying to kind of build out our network.
It's so true. And I love the question that came in, and I get asked this a lot, what are the best tools or et cetera? And I just go back to, what are the tasks? Where do you need to reduce friction, frustration, or attrition? Because I can tell you, I can vomit out the names of tools, but going and playing with one tool or another, again, it's going to move the needle this much instead of really thinking it out more strategically. I will tell you, tool-wise, for most businesses, not all, for most businesses, everything that you need tool-wise is in ChatGPT. Everything. There's no need to go invest and use other tools unless there is a very specific task, strategy, goal, and everything attached to it. Otherwise, ChatGPT, pay for that $20 extra. I pay for the $200 one in my business because it's worth it to me, because I use Sora, which is an image and video generator in the back end too. And I also like knowing that I'll have the service if I need it. But obviously in my business, that makes sense, right? It doesn't in everybody's business. So truly ChatGPT or Copilot, Gemini, et cetera, can accomplish, I'm guessing, 90% of what you'd want AI to accomplish. And if there's something super specific, then all you'd have to do is Google best AI tool for X, and you'll get like 20 or 40 different options. But do your research on those, or ask me or someone else.
And that is true for the video side as well, Jill?
So for the video side, AI video is really interesting. So AI video, the best video generator tool that I found for B-roll right now, it's Sora, Sora,
Okay.
which is part of ChatGPT, OpenAI essentially. However, Canva has been integrating a ton of AI. So if you need images from that, Veed, Veev.io, is what I use for video editing. For avatars, in full disclosure, I am an equity partner and chief experience officer of a company that produces hyper-realistic avatar clones of people. But our expertise is in automation, case in point. But we partner with every single major provider of digital likeness. And I would tell you that depending on what you want to use it for, we may or may not be the best for it, right? If you just want to use it as a parlor trick to have a few times, then great, go use HeyGen. It's going to be the cheapest and it'll get you what you need to do. If you want to integrate it in systems so you have automation, you're going to have to come to us or set up those automations yourself with one of the providers, which is difficult, but can be done depending at the scale you're looking to operate at. So it really depends on, again, what's the goal that you're trying to accomplish with it. And then I could direct you to the tool, but you have Synthesia, DID, Colossian, HeyGen. Those are like self-video generators, and the tools that are integrated in Veed and in other similar video platforms are based off of one of those engines typically.
Okay, that makes sense. There's just so many uses. It's crazy. I wanted to make sure I hit on Josh's comment. Oh, he said he joined a little late, but this is solid gold. And I just wanted to reiterate that I think it really is gold stuff.
I see Tyler's question in there. So no, Tyler, Sora would not be best for that. If you wanted to make videos with your likeness, look into getting your own custom avatar to do it. Rendermedia.ai is my company. Again, if you scan that code, you'll get to it as well. But with that, it's really, Sora is more about like the B-roll, the background roll, the things that you might have behind you in the video, not necessarily replicating you. And that is very, very important. But I think, your topics, like if you have FAQs, if you're answering the same dang thing all the time, like this is a major way to be able to do it. And you don't even have to have, a lot of people say that, oh yeah, I have an AI bot. But it's not actually an AI bot. It's a logic-based bot, which means if people ask specific questions within a realm, it defaults it to one answer. And that could be a video that you have already done and created too. So you can make it logic-based, not truly generative AI. So you're controlling the possible answers they could be getting, especially in the financial industry and all the things around compliance. I don't know that I would trust a generative AI bot to be communicating with my customers, but a logic-based bot where you have pre-scripted answers that are coming back, that would be the way I would look at that.
How difficult is it to integrate with most, say like a HubSpot or most CRMs? Pretty easy?
If you have, it depends. If you have an application with an open API that you can connect pretty easy,
okay.
like
Fair enough.
At Render, for example, we're in the Zapier marketplace, so we're very easy to implement. I can't tell you other providers or not. Again, I'm not trying to make this a sales pitch about that at all, but we are in that marketplace. And I think most things, if you look up Zapier marketplace, you'll see the systems that are nice to talk to each other and want to build with each other instead of the ones that want to just keep things shut out. Brennan, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but marketing is the biggest piece of friction. Yeah, I know marketing is such a pain in the rear. Getting content out there and converting to appointments scheduled. You wouldn't even need to pay $200 for ChatGPT. I'd pay the $20 a month one. I wouldn't even worry about the $200 one. Save that money. And again, honestly, I may not even start paying the $20 a month until I've written out some solid prompts first. So go back to that prompt anatomy, look that over. Yes, a recording will be sent out. They have said, and look over that, work on your prompts first, get those. And once you feel like you've gotten that honed in well, then do the $20 a month and start training your own agent. I mean, if you're not worried about $20 a month, then just go on and buy it. But I try to be conscious. Everyone's at a different level in business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. This is awesome. Are there any questions left, Rod, that you see anywhere that we've missed? Oh, AI podcast generation. Josh has a question. He just says, what's your thoughts on AI podcast generation?
I have a lot of thoughts.
Before we let you go, Jill, we have to ask.
I know. I have a lot of thoughts that cannot be covered in a very, very short answer. But here's what I say. I have a podcast. This is kind of like a podcast, even hosting webinars, right? There's so many different ways to look at this. And if you as a human are not giving enough value to the conversation that AI can replace it, then you know what? If people are getting benefit from an AI generated podcast, then great. Like, I have no problems with it. I think it's the same thing, AI generated scripts. If people are finding fun and enjoyment out of watching AI generated scripts or AI generated topics, copyright issues notwithstanding, that's a whole separate area of worms to open up. But I'm like, you know what? If people want it, we live in a market driven society. If people want it, they're going to consume it. Is it something that I would do even as I am in this space? We actually played with it with a video driven AI podcast solely hosted by my avatar and multiple iterations of her, and decided against it because at the end of the day, the first of it would be great, but it would just be a parlor trick after that. It would just kind of be like, okay, this is something that we're doing just for the sake of doing it with avatars. And that, to me, there wasn't a good enough human emotion feeling attached to that. And there wasn't a good enough business goal attached to it to make that happen. Now, if you're talking about, forget an official podcast, but delivering content via audio and using like an AI voice, or better yet, your cloned AI voice, to be able to deliver it, again, just to keep your social presence in front of people, then absolutely. I think that's a great idea. And again, it gives people choice in how they consume that content. They click on the video, click on the audio, or read the text. A good CRM platform that integrates well with AI, I mean, all the major ones do. All of them do. You have Salesforce, you have HubSpot, you have Zoho, you have Pipedrive. I mean, all of them pretty locked in.
I love it. I love it.
This
I'm
has been
super
fun.
excited about this. Okay. Well, you made sure that you dropped, okay, there's the QR code. Do you have like a meeting link that you can put in out there too? Or did we?
The QR code gives you that.
Okay. So just use your
Yeah.
QR code.
Yep. Go to that form and
Yep. Okay, this has been awesome. Thanks everybody for spending the time with us. Jill, thank you. This has been really amazing. I genuinely am excited to get off the line and schedule a meeting to talk with you. So I hope everybody else is getting as much value as we have. Again, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Oh, thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Money Insights podcast. To learn more about the financial and business strategies discussed in this show, please visit moneyinsights.net. The views and opinions expressed on the Money Insights podcast are not intended to be individual financial, tax, or legal advice. Always consult with the appropriate advisor before making financial decisions. And if you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This will help others find the show and learn wealth building strategies for themselves. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.